Hello everybody! Today I'm going to show you how I turned this super big, oversized, thrifted dress into this cute little number. That's today on Refashioning with Rachel. So the first thing I did was cut apart the dress along all of the seams. I cut off the sleeves. And the collar. And I cut open the side seams so I could work with the front and the back separately. I took the back piece and folded it in half and removed that top yoke part. I used a dress that I liked the fit of and that I wanted to clone, and I folded it in half. I put some pins around it so it would be easier to work with. And I lined up the fold of the dress with the fold of the back panel. I carefully cut around that shape, adding 1 centimeter for seam allowance. When I got to the armhole, I folded back the dress to be sure to see where that seam was lying. I wanted my new dress to flare out a little bit more than the original, so I drew a straight line out from the waist and just cut along the hem to meet up with that new line. And then I had my back piece cut out. And now using the back piece as a pattern, I laid it on top of the front of the thrifted dress, being sure to match up the center of the dress piece with the button placket. And then I cut out the front piece. I really wanted to keep the cuff and the button detail on the sleeve, so I placed the sleeve of the dress I'm cloning over the sleeve of the thrifted dress. I made a mark about 1 inch away from the cuff on that little part that opens up, and then I traced around the sleeve. I had to add a 2 centimeter seam allowance along the bottom of the sleeve so that I could include the cuff detail, but that's okay. I'm going to gather in the sleeve a little bit at the shoulder seam. And then I used that sleeve as a pattern and cut out the other sleeve. And I put another mark 1 inch away from the cuff on that sleeve as well. Now that all the pieces are cut, I can start sewing up the dress, starting with the shoulder seams. Since this dress is a knit, I'm using a small zigzag stitch so that it can stretch with the fabric. And then I'm using a wider zigzag stitch to finish off the raw edges. If you've never done this before, this is a great way to finish off your edges if you don't have a serger. Then I attached the sleeve to the armhole. I found the center of the sleeve, and with right sides facing, I matched the center of the sleeve with the shoulder seam. Then I pinned along the sides of the armhole, lining up the raw edges. I measured 2 inches away from the shoulder seam, and I just made sure that the sleeve and the armhole matched up until this point. So about 2 inches away from either side of the shoulder seam, there's going to be a bit more fabric in the sleeve, but I'm going to stretch as I sew to gather up that extra fabric. And with everything pinned, I sewed the sleeve to the armhole. So starting from one end, I just sewed the sleeve to the armhole, matching up raw edges. And when I got to the point where I put the pin 2 inches away from the shoulder seam, You can see I'm stretching the shoulder fabric to meet up with the sleeve fabric. And this is a really easy way to make a gathered effect on the sleeve. Once I went past the point where I put the other pin, I just sewed the sleeve to the armhole like normal. And here you can see that the sleeves are slightly gathered at the shoulder. And then I zigzagged the raw edges and did the same thing on the other side of the dress. Here's a close-up of the zigzag. My sewing machine is on the widest zigzag setting, and one stitch goes on the fabric and another stitch goes off the fabric. Once both sleeves are attached to the dress, I pinned and sewed the side seam and underneath the sleeve all in one go. I started my stitch under the sleeve right where I put that pin at 1 inch below the cuff. And I zigzagged the raw edges and did the same thing on the other side. To hem the bottom of the dress, I just folded over twice and stitched it down. Trying on the dress, I played with the collar until I decided I liked it and pinned it in place. I drew a line 1 centimeter away from the folded edge. I cut along that line, and I used what I just cut off as a template for the other side. Then I folded over twice and hemmed the neck hole of the dress. And then I was finished. So this is a reminder of what the thrifted dress looked like before. And this is what it looks like now. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe if you did, and have a beautiful day.